Oh, Wookie and I want to welcome you back to the YAHOWah blog. This is the great Wook. He is a little off of his game these last couple of days. Leah, whom he dearly loves, is off to Florida for some medical treatments. And so not only is he bereft of his favorite person, but because Leah has a new puppy, Kara, and Kara's been hanging out with us, Wookie feels a little bit deprived, like his quality time has been such that it's shared. And Wookie is not crazy about all of that at this point. So anyway, we'll see how well Wook does as part of this program. We're having an interesting discussion with Dowd. We're actually listening to Dowd, but we can make it a discussion when we analyze what he said, when we try to understand what he was revealing, when we come to have a more robust conception of everything that this implies and how it applies to our lives. And so we'll continue on to that vein. We are studying now the 34th Mizmowr song of Dowd. It is concerning Dowd, to which it was addressed, and it is written. The next line, the fifth, and the Mizmowr or psalm. Oh, there we go. It was short order today, as I thought it might be. Reads, they look to him, being observant regarding him, and they have a joyful countenance, traveling as a joyful or shining stream, this river of light. Therefore, their appearance, their faces, and their presence will never show any confusion or dismay as they explore. No anxiety or distress, as they are never confounded or humiliated when searching by digging for answers. This is Mizmowr song 34:5. The hymn that they look to, of course, is YAHOWah, Dowd's beloved father. And it is by being observant regarding him, closely examining and closely considering all of the things that YAHOWah has conveyed to us through his Torah and prophets, that we come to have this joyful countenance. It is from Nahar. It also means to shine like a fluid river of light. This is the word that is used a number of times to suggest that during the Shabuwah and the Taruwah harvests and gleanings, that those who are removed from the earth will look like meteors or shooting stars, but going in the opposite direction rather than coming down towards the earth and glowing in the atmosphere. We are going to show our new nature, which is to have our souls encapsulated in energy and light, and we will rise therefore up to heaven in the seventh dimension. It's going to be a magnificent show, and this Nahar suggests that we're going to shine like a fluid river of light. Going to be exceedingly joyful. Can't wait for this to occur, and it is a direct result of being observant of, what was that pronoun? Let's see, we got him or her. Which one do you think it was?
Him.
Him. Oh, him. Him. Yeah, I'd say this, him. I say this because I had a friend. I'm sure I'm persona non grata on all of the various mother goddess cult websites. So on their Shamar Torah site, which still has them as busy as little bees, they posted a something today. You can find it on my Facebook feed. It's probably the best place to look for it. That has to be the dumbest thing that they have written thus far. They have fully acknowledged they're all in with Spirit Mom. They haven't abandoned Spirit Dad, but they have Spirit Mom. So as I have referred to them as the mother goddess cult, they're owning it. They actually called God plural. He's creators plural. He's both mommy and daddy. There's two different gods, mommy God and daddy God. And they know this because of what is said in the first chapter of Bereshith Genesis about having created man. And then in the fifth statement etched on the second tablet in stone about having a weighty evaluation of your mother and father. And so I decided that after I just tore them to shreds and pointed out how absurd their claims were, that I'd actually go back and translate all of those statements. And what we find out is that every time that there is a verb associated with something Yahowah is doing, that verb is scribed in the masculine singular. Whether it's you or he, it is always, without exception, masculine singular, as is every derivation of his title, El and Elohim, God, as is his name, Shem, masculine singular. There is absolutely no justification whatsoever, and all evidence is to the contrary of what they claim. They continue to write their own ticket to a place that none dare go, not of their own choice, but they have done this to themselves. There will be another stream. It is not going to be joyful. Therefore, their appearance, their faces, and their presence will never show any confusion or dismay. They're not going to be confounded or humiliated, searching and digging for answers. No, they're not going to be turning God's name, which they, by the way, won't even pronounce anymore. They're going right back to the four letters, as if you should do that with everything in Hebrew, evidently. No reason to write anything out. Let's just present the letters with no attempt to vocalize the text. Not have any attempt to vocalize the name either, although they had artistically in colors how Yah and Weh represented daddy and mommy. God's dyslexic or transgender or whatever it might be. It's just disgusting. And it's just nothing but humiliation and anxiety-based distress, searching for answers and digging in all the wrong places. We, however, that are going to be part of the covenant family, you're not deranged. If you are, then you can have them. Those who are confident in their relationship with Yahowah have indeed punched their ticket for a ride of a lifetime. On Shabuwah, we will race skyward, our souls streaming to heaven like a river of light. And that is an exciting vision, is it not? And how extraordinary it's going to be. In these words, we are becoming better acquainted with the youthful, inquisitive, and vibrant Son of God. And we find that he had a positive attitude as well as a joyful countenance. Well, at least in the point that the fractured family wore him down, and he, like Moshe, finally said, I can't do this anymore. This job is impossible. These people are impossible. And, that's really where we find ourselves even today. So our ride out of town is what's going to be so much fun because we don't have to put up with the malcontents anymore. So when we expect and accept the very best from God, we're never disappointed and we are never disappointing. From our king's perspective, confusion was a confidence killer, and it is. And it's an attitude depressant. Dowd wanted to assure us of the fact that Yahowah responds to those who respond to him. Every answer is at our fingertips. It's awaiting our search. A great treasure awaits our investigation, so long as we are systematic and diligent and honest in our approach. This man who replies with answers Any, the responsive one. It's both Ze and Anah here, masculine singular. Will call out. He's going to read and recite as he issues a summons for the Miqra'ey, Kara. He's offering an invitation to be called out, proclaiming that he was appointed. Call, perfect at this time, actually. Third person, masculine, singular. And even Yahowah is going to listen. So Yahowah, he hears this. Again, that is so extraordinary. It's something I pointed out in a previous statement in this Mizmowr, when Dowd says that Yahowah Anah answers, then Yahowah is responsive. And the reason that is just so spectacular and unusual, and here it is Yahowah himself who is doing the Shamar, the listening, is that throughout the Torah and prophets, God's most prevalent recommendation to us, if we want to get to know him and benefit from him, is to be observant, carefully examining and closely considering every word that he has written to us and for us, and then to Shamar, to listen to it. But in this presentation written by Dowd, the subject and the object are inverted, where it is Yahowah who is doing the observing and Yahowah who is doing the listening. And there really is very few sets of circumstances where that's true. Occasionally God says, I have heard, this, that, and the other thing, or I have seen this, that, or the other thing, but it's very uncommon to have Yahowah being the subject when the verb is to listen, because that's our responsibility. And here he is listening to this man who replies with answers. Now, Dowd is writing this. And so he's writing it of someone who has been responsive to Yahowah. He is designating someone who is involved, Kara, reading and reciting as he issues a summons, an invitation, if you will, for the Miqra'ey, whom Yahowah will listen, because this individual apparently is being positioned as the very voice of God in this circumstance. Now, you can speculate as to who that man is, that there's somebody that Dowd 3,000 years ago would say that this man responds with answers, and that he calls out and recites, reading and reciting, as he issues a summons for the Miqra'ey, whom Yahowah will listen. I know him. And if you do too, then you're well on your way as you continue to contribute to this relationship that God intends for us. Then from all of his unfavorable circumstances, as well as his distressful situations with the rival, who is a vexing and troubling woman, from all anguishing tribulation and time of trouble, from the adversary and dire straits, from Sar, from being diminished in significance by being attacked by his adversary. He will deliver and he will liberate him, saving through him. Yashahu, he will free him from harm's way, and he will deliver salvation with him. Hifel means that that God is going to work with this individual such that this individual represents him. Perfect means this will happen at a point in time. Third person, masculine, singular, is that God is doing this, and that he is masculine, singular, and his deliverance and salvation are with and through him, this person who is responsive, who is reading and reciting a summons to the Miqra'ey, who is being attacked by a troubling woman. You see, Sar in Hebrew is trouble. Sarah would be the feminine of trouble, and thus a vexing and troubling woman. Now, we have a couple of options here. One is it could be prophetic of Dowd, but it would be fairly odd for Dowd to go into third person and to write about himself in third person, don't you think? When Dowd writes about himself, he writes in first person. You look at the 22nd Mizmowr. He says this is all happening to him personally. So why would he switch here to writing of himself in third person? God can speak of Dowd in second person, you, or third person, he, but this is in Dowd's voice. So Dowd is speaking of someone that's very important to him. And the most likely would be the one who is the lesser luminary, reflecting his brilliance. By the way, speaking of greater and lesser luminaries, just so that everyone is up to speed, the most violent solar flare and solar storm of a decade or more was unleashed from the sun here just quite recently. It has the potential to cause an EMP pulse, which can be highly damaging to electronics. An antenna, long wires are particularly susceptible to this kind of thing. You just ought to be careful with your electronics over these next few days as we go through this particular storm. So it is of concern. This is a big one. I don't think I would spend, if I were you, a lot of time right now out in the direct sunlight, and I certainly wouldn't expose my eyes to the sun at this time. Good time to be indoors. And I do think that we're going to experience more of these going forward because I think the planet's going to become less and less habitable and over time. And I think it's also just kind of symbolic of God's, because he equates his beloved son, Dowd, to the sun, and Dowd's herald to the moon. He's very much into the idea that the sun would be quite angry at this time and all this being done, since this is now the first time that anyone has restored Dowd's dignity and his accolades and achievements. And even as he does it, the world yawns. Many kick sand in his face and spit at him. So God's got to be enormously frustrated by the lack of response to the greatest discovery ever made. It's also interesting, of course, as we move through time and we get to the point where this man that Dowd is speaking of fulfills Taruwah. He is the Adam of Parah, this bloody red man of the earth, Obed-Edom, who arrives to save many. And it is interesting that in the fulfillment of Taruwah, we're going to have a very rare occurrence, which is a full solar eclipse. While the sun, of course, provides all of the illumination of the moon simply reflects the sun's brilliance. It doesn't create any light on its own. It's reflective of the light of God's beloved son, Dowd, in the metaphor that Yahweh is using. The moon is going to eclipse the sun on this day. It's the one day where Dowd's herald is actually, the role of Dowd's herald is actually for a moment, about the time, I guess, that the moon moves in front of the sun during a solar eclipse. But Taruwah, the first day of the seventh month in year 6000 Yah 2033, is to a solar eclipse. I think that's really very significant. That first of all, there will be darkness in the midst of the day, which is ominous. Second, at that point, the moon turns black as the life of Dowd's Bashar herald is taken to purge the religious guilt out of the remnant of Israel. And the sun is obscured for that moment. So rather phenomenal kind of events. Of course, then as we move into Chag Sukah and the celebration of our return to the garden, that will be a full lunar eclipse when the sun light is blocked by the earth, and the moon is shown really as a bloody reddish color. But it's the eclipsing, if you will, of the moon at that point, because, well, the sun's back. So it's marvelous, the signs in the skies and what Yahweh is going to put on display for all of us. So it's then from all of his unfavorable circumstances. This is a tough job. I have long stated that while anonymous, it was the most fun job in the world. And I was anonymous for 10 years. But when no longer anonymous, when there are many, many hundreds of references to the role, two things change. One is you bear a lot of responsibility. You don't want to disappoint God. And two, you become a target for all of those who would be opposed to the mission of attacking and nullifying their beliefs, like the mother goddesses or Christianity or Islam or Judaism or MAGAs or Marxists. And so you're always on the attack, as is God, as are his prophets. And there is none of them that's ever been popular. And that's never going to change. It's a really tough job. Humanity is vicious towards those who speak for God and those who convey the truth. And that has not changed, and it isn't going to change. So it is a distressful situation. And to realize that you're giving away eternal life and inheritance of the universe, perfection as you're adopted into God's family, becoming literally a son and daughter of God. And even as a man that was once skilled as a salesman, you can't give it away. It's nothing easy about it. It's vexing. But of course, the worst is always the insider attacks. You expect Marxists and MAGAs politically. You expect Christians and Muslims religiously to be vicious because, well, you're proving that their politics and their religions are false. But you're so accustomed to it. I've had thousands of death threats by this point. It's nothing to me. But insider attacks, it's a whole different story. It's much more troubling. And in this case, Sarah has been made feminine. It's a troubling woman. And it says that God, however, is going to deliver him, this man that Dowd has been speaking of, and he is going to save through him. That mortal remnant of Israel is quite literally saved based upon the sacrifice of the Adam of Parah, this man from Edom. So I think it is far more likely that Dowd is speaking of his Bashar, offering his Bashar body to fulfill the Miqra'ey of Taruwah, while explaining the purpose of him doing so. And because both men actually performed in this way, he could be tying us together, saying that he offered his Bashar as well during a Miqra'ey, and he has summoned us to it through his Psalms, and that now we're anticipating the fulfillment of Taruwah in the same way. Now, of course, as I've said, that does not make us popular. It does not make life easy, as has been the case with others engaged with God. They are detested. They're ravaged. It goes with the territory. It is a mission for the thick-skinned and resolute. It is a response Yahweh knows all too well and can sympathize because he has endured it. for 6,000 years that we know of. It's a tough go. And, quite frankly, you just can't do this job on behalf of Yahowah without some skin in the game so that you know what God has endured. As it so often is the case, the most responsive man with the most answers, of course, is Dowd. He is our prophet. He is the psalmist. His lyrics and lives read like a summons to the Miqra'ey. He had an open line of communication with God, especially as the Messiah, and he fulfilled Pesach, Matzah, and Bikuwrym. Never was trust as essential as it would have been when Dowd volunteered to carry our guilt into Sheol. It was from the most adversarial and vexing confinement that Yahowah would liberate his son's nephesh, and in the process, salvation was delivered on behalf of the covenant family. On that note, the 91st Mizmowr, which is near and dear to me, the king revealed that Yahowah stations his Malak, his spiritual messengers, around his most devoted co-workers, doing so that they are secure. I have enjoyed their protection for the past 24 years, and I can vouch for their effectiveness. So can anybody who has spent any time around me. Even Rich can now attest to what it's like to live in the protection of the Malak. The Malak, the spiritual messenger of Yahowah, bivouacs, is sent to camp out as an act of concern and care and compassion all around Shebeba, surrounding, out of respect for him. And he removes threats and he takes them away. Mizmowr, Psalm 34:7. There is no indication in Dowd's life that he experienced much of this early on, because he was constantly running from the threats of King Shabuwah. And he also ran towards the end of his life from the threat of his son Absalom and the coup d'etat that was brought against him. There are lots of times where I'm reading that, Dowd did this, that, and the other thing as he was trying to avoid Shaul's vengeance for him. I said, why are you doing that? You've been chosen by Yahowah. You've been anointed by Yahowah. You have been inspired by Yahowah. Why would you be concerned about a man? Any man? Why would you be concerned about an army? We now have the U.S. Navy and Marines camping out on our daggone island, and I can assure you they're no fan of mine because I'm no fan of theirs. Yeah, doesn't bother me at all. I've had, as I said, thousands of death threats. Nah, no concern. And the reason is quite simple. That you have the Malak of Yahowah, and so I'm thinking again that since Dowd would have recognized that Yahowah put Dowd's 91st Mizmowr, promising this protection, in my pocket when I negotiated for this protection. I didn't know Yahowah at the time, and when he asked me to do something that would have been certain death without this level of protection, I asked for it, and he said, reach into your pocket and read what's there. I consent to your request. It was that you would have Malak, spiritual messengers of Yahowah, all around, removing all threats and taking them away. And so it has been for 24 years. So I'm still convinced that Dowd is speaking of the role that I'm playing to restore his dignity. Now, should that be something that you don't want to hear, you think is superfluous to the the message you think is presumptive, then, well, I don't know what to tell you, because why else would he say these things? And since you have to just get down to the brass tacks of the whole thing, Dowd fulfilled Pesach, Matzah, and Bikuwrym, and there wasn't a single soul on earth who acknowledged that he had done so. Dowd is the Messiah, and the world has been led to believe that it was Jesus. Dowd is the Son of God, and yet that's afforded to Mr. Christ. Jews are awaiting an unknown Messiah to return at an unknown time, when in fact, Dowd and Yahowah both told us exactly when they would return and who the Messiah actually is. The whole world's upside down. There wasn't a single person on the planet for over 2,000 years that knew that Dowd was our Savior by having fulfilled Pesach, Matzah, and Bikuwrym, and no person on the planet who said that Dowd is the returning Messiah, returning King, and that he is the Son of God, and therefore the whole Jesus myth is a bunch of trash. Without knowing that, there is no salvation. Without knowing that, there is no Shabuwah harvest, because the Shabuwah harvest is based on Bikuwrym. And Dowd fulfilled it. Without that, there's no purpose of Taruwah, because Taruwah is preparing the mortal remnant of Yisrael for Dowd's return. Therefore, there's no Kipurym. Nobody to enjoy a return to Eden on Sukah. It's all for naught. The whole human experience negated without the lesser luminary exposing the greater luminary's light. So yeah, Dowd has a lot to say about this. He's gone 2,000 years, 3,000 years since he announced what he was going to do, 2,000 years since he did it, and not a single person recognized what he had accomplished until Yahowah's collaboration with Dowd's herald. This Malak of Yahowah, this messenger of Yahowah, imbued with the 7 spirits of Yahowah, who is Nakry, the observant foreigner, who is the choder, the stem off the main branch, now making it known to you. And so if hearing that over and over again, I don't know how many times we're going to hear it from God, 1,000 times, is wearisome to your ears and you just want to hear about other stuff, well, then you have to ask God, why did he think it was so important that he was going to repeat it over and over again? Why did he tell us that this man would issue a summons to meet with God, that he would read and recite the words of God, that God would save through him while sparing him, that the Malak spiritual messengers of Yahowah would bivouac all around him out of respect for what he's doing and remove all threats pertaining to him. You know, as I have rewritten the introduction to this book, which is Coming Home 4, it's all about 2 things. And that's where we are. And it permeates God's story right from the first chapter of the Torah. Dowd is God's beloved son, and it is through Dowd that Yahowah saves us. And God chose a man to restore his son's dignity and to reacquaint the world with what his beloved son had achieved and what's going to happen in our future when his son returns. That's his story. And it's repeated, as I say, hundreds of times, up into the thousands of times. So having substantially surpassed what anyone has done previously, and, well, eviscerating Allah, Muhammad, and the Quran, without ever having to run or duck for cover, my life is a testament to the truth of Dowd's promise. No one has done more to destroy the credibility of Islam than I have. And people who have done far less are already dead. Even the worst of storms cower before the Malakim as they approach wherever I happen to be living at the time. Quite frankly, without these Malak, I would not be here. I could not do this show. I could not show my face. Dowd is actually encouraging us to test the veracity of Yahweh's promise in this regard. And by the way, just one last thought as we press on, as I'm identifying myself as the person being talked about, because there is no one else that has done this. There is no one else that has written books about the next two harvests, these ingatherings, under Yahweh's name. There is no one who has written about these Mizmowr of Dowd, presenting them in this light so that you might come home. This is a unique experience in human history. And as Walter Cronkite says, and you were there, you're part of this journey with me. Let's enjoy the process. And should you want a bigger role for yourself, you want to write yourself also into God's story, or have God having written you into God's story, join us. Support what we're doing. Experience this and taste the difference. Choose to test this. Call imperative, second person, masculine, plural. While witnessing and being shown, choose to see that which is verifiable and true. Indeed, Yahweh is good, beneficial, and agreeable. The capable and confident man, the Gibowr, the strong male, the powerful person, the mighty individual, and prevailing human being who trusts him for their safety and who relies on him for their protection and well-being, receive the benefits of the relationship and is joyful in their approach to life. Asherah 34:8. Life is better with Yahweh. Taste the difference a real God makes in your life. Should you be at the point where you're beginning to question and doubt the thousands of reasons that Christianity can't be true, a real God makes sense. God's not a man. Men cannot kill God. Paul never once accurately, nor did any New Testament author, never once accurately cited God. This is Dowd's dare. Life is better with Yahweh. Taste the difference a real God makes. Now, the realization that the 8th verse follows the 7th makes this all the more poignant. When we trust Yahweh to perfect us, we can be vastly more confident, competent, courageous, and capable. I've just thought about this so many times. If you take away all of the anxiety over things like storms, earthquakes, hurricanes, war, assassination plots, I've received thousands of those, and even fractured families where you have just a nincompoop cult trying to destroy the credibility of YadaYahowah. You realize that none of it has any chance of causing a problem. God wants us to expose and condemn those who are contrary to him. That's the way that he rolls all the time. He is always dedicated to exposing and condemning those things which are obstacles to knowing him and being in his company. Everything that is said about him that is fallacious must be attacked and criticized. But we can do so boldly because there is nothing they can ever do to disrail us. There is nothing they can do to destroy us, to harm us, to put us in a unfavorable position. So you can be exceedingly aggressive when you work with God. You can turn the cameras and lights on and just go because you're working and collaborating with God Almighty who has our back. This is the way he likes to work. And so the more we trust Yahowah to protect us, the more confident, competent, courageous, and capable we can be. Now, Dowd experienced this, and you have now witnessed it, of course, in my life and in the lives of those who are surrounding me in this covenant family. You have grown sufficiently reliant. Well, I should say, have you grown sufficiently reliant to see it in your own life? That's a question you have to ask yourself. If so, then you are the furthest thing from humble. You're not meek. You're not modest. You're confident. You're courageous because you trust God. And that is what those who fake a relationship with God and an appeal for the internet likes and followers, that's what they miss. The more we trust Yahowah, the more confident and courageous we become. If you are meek or modest, you do not have Yahowah's influence in your life. And if you promote humility in concert with the Almighty, you're working against his interest. And let's not lose sight of the fact that coming to trust and rely upon Yahowah is indeed one of the conditions of the covenant. It must be true for every member of the covenant family. But since this makes a person a Gibowr, when you trust and rely upon Yahowah, makes them capable and confident, it means that the meek are fooling themselves and those sucker punched by them. Being reliant on Yahowah is a condition of the covenant. Those who are reliant on Yahowah are Gibowr, confident, courageous, capable. Therefore, anyone who claims to be timid, humble, or modest isn't part of the covenant because they have missed one of the conditions, because they do not manifest the benefit and result. And let's not lose sight of the fact that by coming to trust and rely upon Yahowah, that being a condition of the covenant, we need to reflect Gibowr. It's also true that when we trust Yahowah, he provides the benefits of the relationship. And while one of these leads to our well-being, the foremost advantages include enrichment, enhancement, enablement, empowerment, enlightenment, and emancipation. It's a lot of E's, isn't it? Enrichment, enhancement, enablement, empowerment, enlightenment, and emancipation. I don't think there's anything in that list which would be humbling. Most people, when they're enriched, are not humbled by it. Most people who are enhanced are the opposite of meek. If you're enabled, then you're more capable. If you're empowered, then that's the opposite of being timid, isn't it? When you're emancipated, you're free, then you have the wherewithal and the courage to not be huddled all down and afraid of your own shadow. If you're enlightened, you may not even have a shadow. Now, if I may, since Asher revealing the benefits of the relationship was the first of many thousands of words I translated, beginning 24 years ago now, I have had the opportunity to learn a tremendous amount about these words, even experience the result, and to share them. By reading this, I think you are a beneficiary of all God has achieved through our collaboration. Respecting Yahowah, as I have shared, is, of course, universal among all covenant members. This results in us being set apart from the world and separated unto him. This is one of many distinctions which makes us different than those who remain lost in religion and politics. Those of you who are set apart and special to him have chosen to respect Yahowah. Therefore, as a result, for those who respect and revere him, there is no scarcity of anything vital to life or success. Psalm 34:9. Every journey with God begins by being set apart from religion and politics, from the babble, confounding intermixing of these things by men and women. Only then can we come to respect Yahowah sufficiently to know and to trust him. And when we do, even the most difficult challenge is something we can overcome. And the most disabling event is opportunity for empowerment. Yahowah provides what we need to prevail. We give what we can, and Yahowah returns the favor. He's just a lot better at it than we are. So if you're looking for an investment partner, you can't do better than Yah. And while this is all very reassuring, what I've discovered is that God is always there to supply whatever we need to accomplish the mission, including knowledge and understanding, confidence and courage. You know, every time there is another obstacle, another attack, another group of dunderheads claiming something stupid, God always has the answer. Sometimes even before we ask, there it is. It's detailed. It's straightforward. It's undeniable. It's right on cue. It's precise. Always. Sometimes you get a little tired and say, "Wow, that was a tough one today," and you're invigorated. Here we had the mother goddesses finally come out of the closet and admit they are goddess worshipers, that they believe that God is not one but two, and collectively they're part of a family, makes the Trinity real again in their minds, and they are literally changing the name of God to suit their mother goddess. And when you see such things, your first thing is, oh my God, these people were once associated with me. And they're this insane. They're this utterly stupid. They're this demeaning of Yahowah. And so that's horrifying. And then immediately say, wait a minute. They cited two passages here, both of which prove that they're wrong, which is what they always do. And so the thrill of going into the full text of what they chose to use to justify their mother goddess was so damning of them. It just turned out to be, God just laid it on a silver platter and said, go for it. Take an hour or two, render this accurately, and you will see I already provided you with a perfect answer. I'm there. I gave you the answer for this one, kid. It's a lay down hand. It's all there. Have fun with it. You'll enjoy this one. And he did. God's sufficient. He gives us what we need. And sometimes, in the midst of the battles, you need a lay down hand. Sometimes we say in golf, we need a gimme. And that was what God did this morning. It was a gimme. I went into Rich's office after I completed it. He says, "You are just not going to believe how perfect God's actual response was to their turning him into two and having mommy issues." It was just beautiful. So, indeed, while Yahowah and Dowd worked together for 62 years in his first life, and a few more in his second, probably 3 or 4, to fulfill the Miqra'ey. I can tell you that I'm now in my 24th year with him, 70 all total, but 24 together. Dowd passed away in his first of 3 lives at my age now, 70 years old. But in my 24 years with Yahowah, I've never lacked for anything. And that's going to remain true over the 32 years of our collaboration together. Now, Dowd was king of Israel for 40 years. Moshe saw the brats of Israel through the wilderness for 40 years. The mission is a 40-year mission. Since I was called on Taruwah in 2001, and I will fulfill Taruwah in 2033, that is 32 years. So what's the 8-year difference? It has all to do with the 8 days of Sukah. Because as God recalibrates the opportunity, as he renews the opportunity for his people to become part of the covenant family, after we have purged them of their religious guilt and they have been brought back into the garden, it's a fresh start for all of those who are entering the garden. And for the first 8 years, representing the 8 days of Sukah, beginning on the first day of Sukah, the 2nd of October in 2033, we are going to provide the children of Israel who are part of that mortal remnant with an opportunity to learn what they need to know to be part of the covenant. It's going to be 8 years of education. And it's why there are 8 of us that are listed on Shabuwah and Taruwah that are part of this company, that are going to be the instructors of Eden. And once we have done that, we will have completed this mission. And I'm hopeful to some extent that we become just like everybody else in the covenant family. We're going to deal with what Yahowah wants us to deal with. He's quite good at saying, all right, you did a good job of that. You stuck with it. You gave it your all. You did good work. Nice thinking on some of these things. You found things that no one had seen, and 2,000 or 3,000 years. That's pretty good for a young man. I'm happy with our work together, and therefore I have another job, and we're going to do this job. And God ups the ante all the time. So there may be another job, but at this point, I can tell you that's how we're going from 32 to 40. And so those of you who are part of the Great 8 that are going to be a part of that team, strap it up, lace up your shoes, because we're going to have some work to do in those first 8 years. And imagine the opportunity. It'll be an opportunity with the children of Israel and Goyim as well, who will they're going to be devoid of the antagonistic qualities during the Exodus and during Dowd's existence. So they're going to be a receptive audience. And we at the time, of course, are going to be essentially light. We will be reflecting God's brilliance. We're going to even have copies of the Torah written inside of us. So it's going to make it for an extraordinary experience. Well, in fact, following the October 7th, 2023 savagery by Muslims in Israel, when I asked Yahowah for a reprieve from returning to the Quran to augment and update Prophet of Doom, turning it into what now has become the 5 volumes, which I'm actually very pleased that we did. The 5 volumes of Goddamn Religion are so much better than was Prophet of Doom. Far more comprehensive. The entire Quran is now presented in chronological order. The translations of the Quran are vastly superior, and the analysis is as well, and the comparisons between what Yahowah said and what the Quran says are more comprehensive, and so is the absolute proof that the Quran exists because rabbis sold Muhammad Talmud stories. So I'm glad we did this. But when I told God at the time, 2 years ago now, yeah, God, that was a hellish experience. Translating and commenting on your word, man, that's fun. Like that. That is great stuff. And I was going back to Coming Home 3, looking forward to writing Coming Home 4, and say, God, yeah, let's keep on going to good stuff. I don't want to go back to the Quran. That's like going into hell. I know Dowd did it, and I know that it's important that if I'm going to serve Dowd, that I have some experience with it, and I'll do it. But God, I really don't want to do it. And God's line to me was pretty emphatic. I've shared with you before. It was just, I've taken care of you, so now you take care of my people. Yes, sir. I'll be right on it. I'll start right now. And I can tell you that just beginning at the beginning, I was just so delighted for his instruction, because Prophet of Doom had lots of holes in it. I didn't know enough. It was as good as I could do at the time. I made a tremendous difference, but it wasn't nearly enough. It is now. It is, of course, futile to argue with God when he has a response with that. And so I laughed. I invested the next year of my life repudiating Islamic apartheid and genocide, or at least the basis for it. So normally we are conditioned to see our king as the Lion of Judah, and we present him that way a lot. But Yahowah actually prefers to cast him in the roles of ram. That's the strong leader of and protector of the flock, and as the lamb who serves to fulfill Passover. Now, although in his youth, before he devoured the word of God, he was less of a man than he would become after a healthy dosing, helping hand, if you will, of Torah. So this may be the young lion who hasn't yet grown into his roar. The adolescent lion, the Kafir, is impoverished and weakened from malnutrition. But to those who seek, inquire about, and account for Yahowah, never lack for anything. They never have any shortage of that which is good, productive, beneficial, or worthwhile. Now, perhaps the lesson here is that those who are immature in their relationship with God are preoccupied with the mundane, while those who prioritize growing with Yah by devouring his Torah live far more satisfying and productive lives. And speaking from experience, I found this to be true. What I've also found is that a sedentary life, or an indulgent one, even with lots of money and all manner of extravagant toys, is unfulfilling, especially compared to the challenges and opportunities, indeed the rigor associated with working alongside God. You know, when I left business, I had fast airplanes and luxurious yachts, fancy homes all around the country. I had memberships to elite country clubs. I could have spent my time being extravagant, but I didn't. I might have a set of clubs now, but they have rusted and they're put away in a closet that I don't even know where they are. I sold my yacht. I sold my airplane. And they may say, oh, big deal. I wish I had an airplane and yacht to sell. Well, I had those things and I gave them up. And I don't miss them for a moment. And I'm delighted to be here, devoted to doing this. As Rich knows, he's over there with Wookie right now. Wookie's needs TLC, for reasons I explained earlier. As Rich knows, we begin this before the sun rises every morning, 7 days a week. We never conclude before the sun sets. And it is a labor of love. We love what we do, and there is no goofing around here. You know, Rich has been here. I don't ever think he's even walked on a beach, other than maybe a brief time after lunch when we had lunch down there on the beach.
I didn't come here to be a tourist.
No. Yeah, and and when Leia's here, she's not only fixing us meals so we don't have to leave. They're often delivered to the desk, so we can just keep right on going. So it is a much more satisfying and fulfilling life working alongside God. Each day begins before the sun's rays streak across the sea and concludes long after the sun plunges into the western waves. And while often rough and tumble with all manner of rebukes from men and women, each new day results in something of enduring value. Now, this bold, brimming with confidence narrative is filled with conviction. Our Messiah said, choose to move forward, standing up and walking, making progress in life's journey. Children, choose to listen to me. I will teach you how to properly respect Yahowah. Indeed. But what did the world do? Now, first of all, when Dowd returns to first person here and he says, I will teach you, listen to me. When he was speaking of someone in third person, saying that he will do this and he will do that, and God will accomplish this through him. Now you understand why I said that Dowd was not speaking of himself. When he speaks of himself in a psalm that he is writing, he refers to himself as you and I would, as I and me. When he's speaking of someone else who is collaborating with him, then he uses he and him. He's returned now to I will teach you. Listen to me. Journey forward in life. Standing and walking, making progress. Children, listen to me. I will teach you how to properly respect Yahowah. Now, while that does affirm, and please, Asher, excuse me. She stopped just in the moment. As I say, Asher views these programs as her opportunity to be a bit of a biter of her paw. So we're devoted to having her stay healthy by not allowing her to do that. The point I wanted to make is that Dowd wrote upwards of 100 Mizmowr songs. He wrote upwards of 30 Mashal proverbs. And in so doing, he became a marvelous teacher. This song has lyrics that teach us how to properly respect Yahowah. We can listen to Dowd when he sings to us. Our king was exceptional in this way. Our king was extraordinarily articulate, brilliant, insightful, and he was a prophet, inspired to speak for Yahowah. So he is inviting you and me to walk with him, to join him, making progress in life's journey by choosing to listen to him, to allow him to teach us how to properly respect Yahowah. And yet, what did we do? By we, I mean all mankind. We robbed him. No one does this. Dowd is disregarded. Until I wrote the series Coming Home, no one knew that Dowd was the Messiah and Son of God, who is our returning King, who fulfilled Pesach, Matzah, and Bikuwrym in his second of 3 lives. No one. We didn't listen to him. and come to respect Yahowah through his eyes and words. No, that's specifically, generally, never bow a knee or head. One should stand before God. One should walk with him. And if you want to prosper, listen to the Messiah and Son of God, and he will teach you how to respect and approach Yahowah, which of course begins by knowing and properly pronouncing his name. All 4 letters are vowels. A yod, which is a Y, a hey, which is the H, the O, which is the wah, and the hey again. There are thousands of Hebrew words with these vowels in them. It's how we get the O in Torah is from the wah. It's how we get the O in shalom is from the wah. The verb that tells us how to pronounce Yahweh's name and what it means is haya, which has the yod and the hey. It isn't complicated. And anyone who just writes yod, hey, wah, hey, as if God's name was difficult to pronounce is misleading you. Anyone who fails to convey the vowel sounds of each of those 4 letters is misleading you for some purpose, whatever it may be. Don't spend any time around them. We are wise when we follow our shepherd, especially as children of the covenant. And if ever a man knew the heart of God, it of course is his beloved son, his chosen one, his Bikuwrym firstborn. There is no better teacher in this regard than Dowd. He is our exemplar. We should all therefore strive to know and learn from this man who has caught Dowd's eye. As I was going to say, there is someone who wrote 3 volumes that's now into the 4th, specifically on Dowd, and who has worked what he has come to know about Dowd into all 35 volumes that he has written, 25,000 pages. The person who has discovered the single greatest gift ever offered humankind, the greatest treasure in the universe, was unknown until I came upon it. And the first thing I did is, after I could prove it, after I could verify it, after I could say that every reference to this is consistent and this is absolutely true, I know how Dowd came to this conclusion that he should volunteer in this manner. I understand why he volunteered to fulfill Pesach, Matzah, and Bikuwrym. I know that he specifically wrote about in first person how he endured Passover, unyeasted bread, and firstborn children. I know all of these things. I can prove all of these things, and every reference to these things is consistent. And I understand why God approved it and how God supported him in this regard and what was achieved, even when it occurred and where. All of that. The moment I came to bring all of that together, what was the first thing I did? I gave it as a gift to you. What you choose to do with it is up to you. But it is the single greatest discovery and the most wonderful treasure in the history of the universe. It is the means to eternal life. It is the means to reconciliation with God, to have all of your guilt be removed so you appear perfect in God's presence, such that you can be adopted into his covenant family and be enriched and empowered, emancipated and enabled by the creator of the universe. And so Dowd asks, going back to speaking of another, who is this man who desires lives, loving the days to witness that which is productive and beneficial? 34:12. Who indeed? Who is this man? My ha Ish, who desires lives. Chepesh Chayam. Why one man? Ha-ish, because there is only one. Why does he desire lives? Because it will take 3 to get this done. Dowd had 3. I will have 3. Now, if anybody is covetous of all of this and say that's pretty presumptuous of you, sit down, listen. Everyone who is born is given a life. Everyone who accepts what Dowd has accomplished in fulfilling Pesach, Matzah, and Bikuwrym gets a second life with Yahowah. Every covenant member. There are 3 men who desire lives, plural. They are the ram, the bull, and the goat. They're all part of sacrifices during the Moed Miqra'ey. They are Dowd, Yada, and Elia. And you cannot fulfill this purpose and prepare the mortal remnant of Yisrael for Dowd's return with Yahowah on Kipurym without desiring the additional life that comes with the fulfillment of the sacrifice of the Bikuwrym, bull, the Adamah Parah. It requires lives to do that, to lay down one of them for God's people, just as Dowd desired lives so that he could also fulfill Pesach, Matzah, and Bikuwrym 1,000 years after his first life, and so that he could return as king of the universe in his third. We love the days to witness. I've been given 24 years so far. I'm expecting 32 in the first phase and another 8 in the second. This is why we're here. We exist to witness to all that which is productive and beneficial. Psalm 34:12. Every covenant member, as I've shared, will live 2 lives, while 3 will experience 1 more. These men, who are noted for their productive witness, offer the second of their 3 lives to prolong the existence of others. They are the ram, the goat, and the bull, Dowd, Elia, and Yada. They live for you. Now, this simple statement, in which Chayim, lives, was plural in reference to a single ish individual, is telling in that it validates the realization that Dowd in particular knew that Yahowah would deploy his nefesh soul multiple times, as well as that of his herald. By doing so, Yahowah enables their Pesach and Taruwah sacrifices while rewarding them and remaining consistent with the Torah's narrative. To be among those who benefit from what Yahowah does through them, well, this is good advice, and we'll conclude this program with it. Our king wrote, "Keep your tongue from that which is wrong, troubling, and harmful, and your lips from saying that which is dishonest and deceptive, especially that which is debilitating and misleading, from speaking a false narrative." Psalm 34:13. Sounds simple enough, doesn't it? But most do otherwise. And should you think I'm exaggerating, spend a day with me on X, on Facebook, or on YouTube and see what you think. In the process of trying to turn those who are wrong towards that which is right, I am often slandered and demeaned as if I were Satan. It's a rough crowd out there, to be sure. And that is actually one of Satan's most effective tricks. As the Lord of religion, Satan inspires those who believe that he is God, into condemning those who know that he is not, saying that those who are telling them the truth are the adversary. Quite the trick, isn't it? In this way, believers defend Satan by calling those who expose and condemn Satan satanic. It truly is clever. Well, I'll let you think about that. We'll return to this portion of the 34th Mizmowr in our next program. Speaking of Gibowr, confident and courageous. Thank you so much for listening.